What's up? Here we are. Seattle Overload podcast available on Spotify and other podcast apps. Griff, do you use Spotify?
Yeah.
No free ads.
What's up? What's going on? What do you want to talk about
Are the
tonight?
Mariners playing tonight?
No.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
They can't break their losing streak.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little rough for our M's. Too bad Ty isn't here.
Yeah, Ty's absence is pretty much recovering from that, I guess.
Yeah. But hey, Julio Rodriguez is starting to hit again, like for real. Jared Kelenic, even as like the home runs have stopped for now anyway. He's still getting singles, still taking walks. So
My
party
prediction for the Mariners is
party goes on.
when Andres Munoz returns, the Mariners will prosper.
There you go.
I don't know when he's going to return though. Like I don't have any sources on that.
Oh, you don't?
No, unfortunately not. So we're going to talk interior defensive line. We'll wait until people come in. Don't think we have much for preamble. Griff, have you seen any bears, cougars, wildlife?
Yeah. I saw a bear a couple days ago.
Nice.
That was pretty cool. It just saw me and ran away, but it hurdled it was running away through the ferns. Like it saw me and just bolted. And there is a root ball, which is like when a tree falls over, but it doesn't snap and the roots come up. They like form like a semicircle.
Right.
And that can be like 10, 15 feet tall up in the air, like just straight up, So then he's running away and he jumps halfway up the root ball and then does another jump to like hurdle it. And then I never saw him again, but I heard him or her like just tearing through the ferns running away. Pretty wild, pretty cool.
So that was let me get this right. That was a black bear.
Yeah. We don't have brown bears.
The coward bear.
Right. Dude, yeah, black bears are like it's like going to the zoo if you see one. They either walk away slowly or they
What
just
kind of
kind of
zoo?
hover. There are bears at the zoo. Do you guys have bears at the zoo over there?
No.
Weird. So you've never seen a bear in person then?
Never.
Interesting. It's pretty cool.
Did you see my reply to you about who Jerry and Carolina were?
It was something British, right?
Yeah, the new monarchy family thing. Yeah.
Those are names that I have no idea. Are they British royalty?
No, they're not yet. The whole point is it's like a game show where now we have a king and a new monarch. They have to select other people to join the family.
Oh wow. I didn't know you
Yeah.
guys did that.
Yeah.
So
What?
it's like a moot then.
A
It's like
what?
a king's moot.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, if that's how you want to think of it.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of a fan of them too.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
I hope that all went very British for you and
Oh,
it
thanks.
was everything you could have dreamed it to be.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
There you go.
But anyway, the bear was I've seen bears in the woods so many times. Black bears are pansies. They don't do anything. They just like run away from you or they just keep their distance. They're never aggressive, at least toward what I've experienced. But a grizzly bear would just like eat you for fun. So that wouldn't be good.
Not me. I don't want to be eaten.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, let's get into it. This was the worst preamble in a while, Griff.
It was pretty bad.
The anti-preamble people, the contingent, They're going to be
They're
pretty vindicated by this.
yeah. We'll do better tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Next time. The proverbial tomorrow.
Ah, yeah. Okay, let's go. Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where Griffin and I are going to continue our scouting series, and we're going to get into the interior defensive line. We've done tweeners in the draft. It's now time for us to do defensive tackles. And defensive tackles are an area that the Seahawks are short on, incredibly short on. In fact, there's only one player over 300 pounds on their roster, Jaron Reed. He was signed in free agency. The tape from him last year, he looks kind of washed. Maybe Clint Hurt can revive him. We've spoke about that. You'd have to hope so because Seattle has no one else. Maybe Alwood returns, maybe Puna Ford returns. They're tight up against the cap. Those guys could, if they wanted to, get more money elsewhere. Maybe Seattle signs someone cut down. But even if they do that, they need a defensive tackle or two or three. Whatever scheme, whatever system they're planning to run next year. So, in the 2023 NFL draft, there's the obvious Jalen Carter. We think he's the best player in the draft. We have spoke about him in a previous podcast. But Griff, there's also other names. And yeah, is this a good class for defensive tackles?
I think it's respectable, but it's not that. It doesn't stand out. I feel like it's standard. It's kind of a standard one. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's particularly good. It's kind of like last year's edge class where it was fine.
Really?
I think so.
That feels slightly high. Just, I don't know.
Really?
I think my problem is the good testers generally don't have the arm length. So, like...
Yeah, I don't know. I feel, well, okay. I think that there are two studs that we'll talk about. I think there are two studs, and then I think that there's like an okay second round here. At least like thinking of these guys as prospects, not fully formed players yet. And then third round it gets dicey because the measurements are really off and things like that. So it gets weird, but I think it's just kind of a common class, a run of the mill class. When in an overall draft that is pretty bad. I think it's probably one of the stronger positions, but not the strongest. It's just not particularly weak to me.
Okay.
But you can feel free to disagree.
No, you are the expert here.
Hardly.
Okay, so
you.
Before we look at these guys who are supposedly in an all right class, similar to the 2021 Edge class, it's important to kind of outline what Seattle needs or wants from defensive tackles, right? So we think they're going to run more bare fronts, more under fronts, more kind of odd looking fronts. Not strange, but an odd kind of number of guys, 3 interior guys this year. One of those generally can afford to be slightly lighter. I think maybe possibly a Draymond Jones, like 280, 285 pounds. But then 2 of them, you kind of need to be close to that or even over, 300 pounds. Ideally, they're getting into the kind of 310s, 320s, especially when you think about a nose tackle, the guy over the center. And Seattle also, I think, ideally, they'd want arm length over 33 inches at least on the interior. Now, could they go down to 32 inches? Possibly, but 33 inches ideally. They like a good enough broad jump. They want, 8 foot 8 inches kind of broad jump, vertical jump probably over 27 inches, 28 inches. And they have liked guys who put up good bench press numbers, especially at nose tackle as well. Although that kind of goes hand in hand. But that's more a case, I think, as well of it's not just a fat dude; it's someone who actually works out.
Mhm.
So, with that being said, that kind of already eliminates certain people. So, Griff, there's Kalijah Cansey, who, well, in some ways, he's divisive in terms of the opinions people have about him. Coming from Pittsburgh, his testing numbers were out of this world, crazy good. He, other than the size, so like
Right.
he's like a 99th percentile player, but he's 6'1", 281 pounds with arms shorter than 31 inches.
Which is not great. So, I mean, yeah, the question with him is like, is he even a playable early down player in the NFL?
Well, he
Like,
wasn't for Pitt. Like Pitt,
yeah,
okay, he played some early downs, but the University of Pittsburgh and Pat Narduzzi, they rotated him through and kind of either they'd take him out of certain situations where it was like you're going to get a certain type of run, like an inside run, you're going to get doubled, or they'd move the line and allow him to attack and keep him out of situations. And you might say with like a player with his skill set, which is like he's incredibly quick, he has incredible first step quickness, he knows he has short arms, and he's able to kind of make it work to a degree with his game. So you might say like it's up to a defensive coordinator to find a fit for that, right? Like there's a
right.
talented player in there, and there is a skill set that was effective against guys. But in terms of up to a defensive coordinator to deploy that, this is a position, interior defensive line, where in the NFL especially, you can't get away with being like fun. You say focus on what a player can do, not what they can't do. But like if you
Mhm.
can't do like a very important part of you know interior defensive line play, then you just become a role player. So maybe he's like a pass rush specialist, or I don't know what his maybe he's an off ball linebacker.
I mean,
I don't know how you like he gets moved. The point of attack strength is a thing, but also he's very good at short punching, but and still managing to get his arms into people even when they put their longer arms around him. He punches sort of in between the other two long arms, but ultimately, yeah, it's just I don't see how he can
I
hold up.
think, yeah, I mean, I think he should try to drop 10, 15 pounds and try to be an edge defender on early downs. And then on passing downs, you just move him all over, kind of like Melvin Ingram or maybe be a Brandon Graham kind
Yeah,
of edge in the NFL. But like he just doesn't the question marks are way too big with him about how he fits. I mean, he has ability. It's just how is it going to translate? So like some people mock him in the first round, and there are some like first round elements to his game, like we all mentioned, like we both mentioned here, but because of like him being such a question mark about like what even is he feels like a third rounder to me. Um, unless some team has a very specific vision with him in their pre-draft process, they feel good about it. But I don't think he fits Seattle. I mean, could he play like be the five technique for them? Yeah, maybe. But even then, the arm length is still a huge concern. Just
you
like his
that's
sheer
too risky.
mass. Yeah, and then they already have Draymond, so they don't need to go that direction for a guy that they're not sold on when they already have Draymond.
He
Um,
he's that he can't deal with a combo block at all. Like because what happens is any kind of contact, he's already playing at the limit of his arm length. Any kind of contact then knocks those hands off, and he can't get them back on because they're too short. Um, so an interesting prospect, but tellingly, he told I can't remember who it was, but he said how he hadn't had a single top 30 visit in this process. So don't be surprised to see Kalijah Cansey fall, which is it sucks, but like the whole Oh, Aaron Donald came from Pitt, and he was a very quick, disruptive player in college, and he had shorter arms and shorter size. Yes, but he didn't have this shorter size and this short arms, and he was also still
Just better.
bigger. Like, pardon?
And just better. Like
Yeah,
times infinity. But
yeah. Right.
well, like
So
the functional play strength is really kind of what it comes down to. Like Cansey has decent play strength for 280, but not enough to overcome all the other things. Like Aaron Donald was holding up against double teams at 290. It's just totally different. Just totally different things going on. Anyway.
yes, so that's Cansey. We've done him. We've done him nasty. Anyway, um,
Yeah.
who do you want to talk about next, Griff?
So do we want to like kind of eliminate or not eliminate, but kind of talk around the guys that we really want to get into tape wise first,
Yes.
just kind of get them out of the way? All right. So the next main guy that would make sense would be like Brian Brzee, the Clemson dude.
Mm.
He was kind of heading into this year, people thought he was going to take off. He was a 5-star recruit out of high school, like the top recruit in the country. He's very tall. He's pretty lean, but kind of still has a good density. He's 6'5", 6'6", long arms. I think he has long arms, doesn't he?
He has 32.5-inch long arms.
Okay, so not really.
But
But
he also, on the testing, Griff, he had a 1.7 second 10-yard split, 29-inch vertical, and so that's like fine for Seattle. Like, it's good.
yeah. So like watching him, he's and right off the bat, he feels like a guy that would be like a perfect 3-4 defensive. Like in a 4-3 scheme, he'd be a 3 technique without a doubt. Maybe for Seattle, the way that they played a 5-man 4-3 scheme, he could be the big end a little bit. But like, the versatility in theory would be a great 3-4 end, right? But watching him, like, yeah, he's got good movement skills. In a straight line, he can be pretty fast, but at the same time, he's more quick than explosive. He's fairly agile, even though he didn't test like it with the 3-cone anyway. But then the play strength isn't there, and then the technique isn't there. So he's just not. I feel like some team will see the height, the length, and the speed, and just his ability to move around for a big guy, and will take him in the second round. But he's not a second round player right now.
He builds up steam, doesn't he? He's like he's don't want to get too cliche, but like he's high effort. It's just like, kind of what you were speaking to. He's not impressive. He doesn't stand out as a like athletically or even like technique wise.
He's just not a powerful presence at all. He tries to sidestep everything, olay everything, swim as much as he can. He backdoors a lot. Like, come on, you gotta play your technique a little bit. But either way, I don't think he's in the consideration for them. This is not like a Malik McDowell thing where as a player we're like, oh, there's actually a lot here. Even if there's bad stuff, there's also good stuff.
There's special traits there, like,
right. He's lacking that. And like, so like early on I was seeing some Chris Jones comparison, and it's different stratosphere, but either way. Yeah, so I don't know. Do you have any more thoughts on Rezi?
Well, just in terms of like, I feel like the pressure percentages aren't as high as they usually would be for the defense tackle group as well. Like, and so to that point, Kalijah Cansey, 14% pressure percentage, as we spoke about. Jalen Carter, for context, 13%. Breesy's next on this is Sports Info Solutions numbers. Breesy's in at 12%. So, he had the activity according to the SIS draft website. And we should also mention, he's been dealing. He had an ACL injury in 2021. He had another injury. I think it was to do with his liver in 2022. or kidney. I should
And
probably know that.
he dealt with a lot of anguish too. I mean, his sister passed away,
Yeah,
so
that's
that
tragic.
might have
Yeah,
affected his
yeah, and
play.
yeah, and he
But
is, a younger prospect where he turns 22 in October, so he, and I feel generally like with most prospects, the older they are, the more polished you'd expect them to be, right? So when we talk about his technique and stuff like that, but I felt that especially this draft cycle that the older guys really are standing out as more polished. And uh, Brissy is not one of these dudes who's transferred and gone in the transfer portal, but like with where college football's at and how guys are going to be transferring, Pete Carroll and John Schneider spoke about in their press conference yesterday the situation of where college coaches are having to actually recruit their own guys on their team still to try and keep them around for another year. There's going to be
right,
so much like schematic. They'll have to simplify their schemes and even their teaching of techniques. And I feel like a lot of players are gonna not be as polished, not as finished. They'll have sort of bounced around different experiences, and like good for them going to get their money. But like in terms of like learning
right,
football and yeah, I don't know how viable that is, and maybe they'll come up with a fairer solution that also allows them to still learn
right.
in a more consistent environment, more constant stuff. But anyway, that was a complete digression. But yeah,
hmm
Brissy doesn't feel like I feel like he gets drafted before to a different team. But
Yeah, I don't think he's in consideration for that. Maybe if he had crazy long arms, they'd be like, all right, let's see if we can mold him. But all the other things combined with probably not hitting their profile, at least their on paper profile, they're probably pass on him.
so you've eliminated him, that's
It's
tough.
been eliminated.
Right, go on then.
All right, so another guy we should probably talk about is probably the premier pure nose tackle that everyone has talked about this draft cycle. As in like kind of the classic perception of what a nose tackle is Siaki Ika, the Baylor
From
guy.
Baylor.
Yeah. Like he is the whole idea behind him. He's a hog molly in the middle. He eats gaps, he eats blockers, stuffs the run and stuff.
Yeah, he tested on Math Bomb's relative athletic score. He got a 2.02, which is
Yeah,
like
really
awful.
bad.
Like he just tested abysmally. And Kentley Platt, who is Math Bomb on Twitter, he compared him to Damon Harrison, who Snacks had a 1.73, who like he also tested like crap. But when that happened with Ika, I kind of ruled him out as a Seahawks prospect, and then that was a
We'll
bit
see.
rash, I think, because he
It
is that pure nose. So
it's so I think really quick to like characterize him as a player from what I recalled, he's not quite the huge immovable presence that you would think. I think he actually has pretty quick feet and he's actually winning a little bit more with like technique and strength and just kind of, understanding blocking schemes. But like he's not like Al Woods kind of presence where Al Woods is just straight up guys cannot move him. Like I mean, don't get me wrong, Ika he's still like that.
Al Wood's
Um,
99th percentile vertical jump, 38-inch vert over
I forgot that
330
he was a
pounds.
tester. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a tester. But what stands out between him and most guys that you would bucket with Siaki in terms of type is that I actually think he has juice as a pass rusher. And
Okay.
that if he's singled up, like, and we're talking relative to nose tackles, like no one in the league that's a pure nose tackle is generating any pressure outside of like Dexter Lawrence and Vita Vea. Like, I mean, as in like getting like the top 20 pressure rate of interior guys. Everyone else, it's like you're either
It's
expecting nothing or just take what you can get.
yeah, it's
I
it's
don't
either scheme or you're pocket pushing, and occasionally a center will crap their pants and they're pushed back a bit.
right. So I'm not saying he's anywhere near Dexter Lawrence or Vita Vea, but I mean, when think about a 5-man front, right? Like you play a lot of tight in college. So there's a lot of 3 and 4-man bodies on the line of scrimmage, but translating that to the NFL, you're going to get a lot more 1-on-1s because there will be 5 bodies on the line of scrimmage. I think he has a pretty potent bull rush as that goes. It won't be game changing, but it's something that's there in contrast with the other nose tackles of this draft. Outside of, yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I know, didn't Baylor run quite a bit of 4-man fronts as well?
So they ran some 2-eye heavy 3 stuff as well. It's just that they're definitely still running tight.
Oh, okay.
So when they are running that, it's like, oh, he's actually getting movement on the center, but then the guard comes because they can play with their numbers that way and slide accordingly. But or sometimes they'll slide and he'll catch the guard and just decleat the guard. And he has a couple of games where he's dominating guys for a series or two. So I think there's something there, but I think with him, ultimately it comes down to, like, do they want to spend a 3rd-round pick on a nose tackle, even though he might be better? Would they rather just like the value of, like, we don't need our nose tackle to be that kind of guy. It can just we can go find a couple of Brian Monets, on day 3 or in undrafted free agency. So I don't know if they have to go the Siaki route, but if they do take him, obviously that means they really like him because they know that there are at least bodies to choose from after. So that would mean that they really like him. So in that case, I'd be for it. But
it's so strange to me that he decided to do all the running but didn't do the vertical or broad jump. Like, what on earth is that advice? Surely you would just jump. Like, guys don't care. He ran a 3-cone, but why are you running a 3-cone? Like, and then the other concerning thing is, I don't know what happened at his pro day, but he weighed in at 347 pounds, where he was 335 pounds at the combine. What?
That's bizarre.
And then at his pro day, he had only 31 of 3/8 of an inch long arms, where at the combine they were a whole inch longer. So they are just doing their guys dirty, I guess. But
that's weird.
Yeah, slightly weird, and yeah, that's an interesting one. I know you mentioned him very early as an option. I guess because he's like the obvious, like, oh, this guy's a nose tackle. So
right, and as I watch the other guys, I think he's better than them against the run, but he doesn't stand out that much.
Okay,
compared, but I don't know.
He's like a mid-round kind of option.
He might go in the 2nd because it's almost like a meme pick. Like, oh, it's the nose tackle of the draft. Oh, this guy, he'll probably draw Vita Vea comparisons, which are lazy, but that's going to boost him. He should go in the 3rd, maybe the 4th.
That's comical.
Yeah. All right. So I feel like we've mentioned the high-profile guys, except for the guys that we really want to dig into, which are, hit it, Matty.
Oh, yes. So someone we actually really like. Well, really like. Well, maybe that's slightly strong. God damn it, I'm mixing it.
Like well enough.
Yeah. Michigan's Mazi Smith. Where are you at with Mazi Smith, Griff? Because I think this guy is the best defense tackle in the draft, not named Jalen Carter.
I agree. No, he's cool because the traits are there, and then he has some bad tape, but then he also has good tape. So it's really more just like, well, what was going on? Like, was he just figuring his game out? And then once he did, it was like, something popped or whatever, and which is really in line with what they like to draft defensive line, because those guys tend to fall where they have good games and bad games, and they always bet on the upside. So that's Frank Clark, because he had up and down tape. That's Malik McDowell, had up and down tape where the good is really good and the bad is kind of concerning. That's even Darrell Taylor. So even though those guys are edges, it's just like, well, McDowell's an interior player, but this is kind of like right up their alley. And then he fits the profile. But as much as I said, like, his tape is up and down, it's not really because of technique. Like, as you'll talk about, he has a really good foundation for that. I feel like he just kind of needed an epiphany to like figure out how to apply his skill set, because he has absolutely like almost top 15 physical traits. not quite to Carter's level, but closer than you'd think. I mean, if you watch him, not closer than you think, but you know what I mean? Like, just if you were to say that, because everyone talks about Carter as an athletic freak, which he is, but it's like, hey, Mozzie Smith is kind of up there too, but he can play as well. It's not like some of the other guys where they tested really well, high effort, but they're not actually good players on top of it. So, yeah, I really like Mozzie.
Yeah.
What's
So
Yeah, go ahead.
before we get to the tape and some like positives, negatives, and stuff like that, two things to note with him. So, firstly, in January, he was sentenced to 12 months of probation for a misdemeanor charge of possessing a gun in his pickup truck without a concealed weapon permit, which, teams will have done their digging on. It doesn't seem.
I literally did not know that till right now.
Oh, Griff, live reaction on air. Griffin, over to you. How do you feel about that?
Of all the things that someone could do, that's like really like I don't care.
You have to get your
Um,
concealed weapon permit, Griff. Come on.
yeah, I think it's more like if teams are upset about that, it's more like you're doing things that could impact your availability. So what's your judgment like off the field?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I don't really have an opinion on the actual act, I guess.
The what the amendments, the Constitution.
I didn't say anything about the Constitution.
Okay, okay. No, I didn't either. Obviously, as a British person, I'm very familiar with guns. Right. The other thing with Smith is what's nice. He meets Seattle's requirements. Really, he tested very very well for a 6'3", 323-pound person with 33 3/4 inch long arms. 1.78 10-yard split. Oh no, that's a different person. An 8'11" broad jump, a 29.5" vertical jump, 34 reps on the bench press. Like, I mean, that's pretty nuts. That is pretty nuts. So, yeah, he's a big dude who has the testing to back up the kind of first step that we saw on tape. So, in terms of the tape, let's go. Let's get into it. And I think if see a discussion while I bring this up, Griff, is Seattle like a team who takes a guy who, in theory, the pass rush has yet to become a thing, right?
Mhm.
Like, would they just take a guy who's really solid against the run? It's going to have to be Smith's like a first round player, right?
Yeah,
In terms of this draft as well.
well, it's so like he's so explosive and so strong to me that they would take him. If they take him in the first, they absolutely believe he's going to develop into a pass rusher.
Right.
Like, I mean, the traits are too. He has too much going for him. So I'd be shocked if he. I'd be pretty surprised if he doesn't develop as a pass rusher, no matter where he goes. Really,
I love how he like wrong arms guys when he's rushing. Carter does actually similar stuff, where you just kind of completely unlock the hips and cause problems.
yeah. I mean, so even though this is TCU, the OSU game, they have a center, highly touted center, and he absolutely sends that guy flying like five
Luke
times.
Whiteler.
Yeah, I mean that guy is of the centers. He's one of the younger centers, so maybe his play strength isn't quite where it will be. Like he's 21, he's not 24, right? But I mean, Mozzie Smith absolutely ragdolls him, run and pass. So
Yeah. Um.
so you probably like even before you roll the clip, you probably love like how low he is in his stance and how that helps him maintain
Absolutely.
leverage and stuff. Yeah,
Like, so he's
he's so
6'3", right?
squatty.
But I
Yeah.
really thought that was an error. I thought he was 5'10" because I was really surprised. And this is impressive, really, because this is 3 tech where they're playing heavy. A bit like how Seattle did last year in the 2-4 front, playing heavy with the D tackles. And he gets his eyes inside here. He's basically two gapping, and he doesn't really get moved by this chip.
Hmm.
Like he holds his ground and stays on the block and flows to the ball. Um, And it's that kind of stuff, which again is from being low, which to me is pretty attractive.
And like how bouncy he is too out of his like he's 323, 325 here. He's not like 310, 315. So
Yeah,
it
look,
just kind of shows, yeah.
here's another heavy three tech play with that kind of bounciness. Um, one thing I'd say is it's interesting. He gets away with it, and I don't know how like he'd deal with a pull or something, but he doesn't really step to guys. He almost like just um surges forward with two hands. Look,
Yeah.
it like just straightforward, but it's not leaning because he sort of strikes before the feet get in the turf, which I mean he makes it work for him. It means he explodes out his stance, and it also means he stays low.
Right. I think
Um,
it's because he comes out so quick and he knows he's coming out low. He's going to
right.
get into the block immediately, then he can move his feet after. But you're right. Like when he's playing a mirror step technique, he's like not really stepping, like you said.
Yeah. Here I've got oh he's here. Here I've got not moved too much. That's not the best example. Okay. 924. Okay, so effort. Let's talk about effort. This game, I felt he had more effort, and this was a big game for Michigan, so probably not a surprise. Like it's the playoff, but I felt at times as the A gap push player, if he'd shown second effort, he'd have like got more ball rush. Now, as I said, this is not the best example, but like it's funny how you mentioned Jalen Carter earlier. We've sort of talked about him. He had all these effort issues raised by people, which I didn't really see. But I actually did see, without any prompting, I saw effort concerns from Mazzy Smith, where it's like he's not turned on all the time. If he shows like a second effort on plays where it's there's a chance to do it, then maybe he gets a bit more going. Like
Yeah.
maybe he impacts the play. Like there's opportunities to impact plays where he just didn't do it.
Right. And the other thing though with the whole, well, I agree with you. Like if we're going to talk about effort with any of the high profile prospects, it makes sense for Mozzie over Carter. But even so, like it's so hard finding premium players to begin with. Like who cares if there's a little, unless something like it's egregious. Like it's not egregious with him. It's
No,
more like contextual. And then the other thing is if we were to focus on someone that isn't draft eligible or focus on somebody that maybe is but we know isn't going to the NFL, we probably would draw similar conclusions more often than we'd think. It's like it's a lot of it's common. Whatever we view as a lack of effort, it's like doesn't really stand out that much.
how are you liking his agility here, Griff?
Uh it's kind of a tough spot to be
Yeah,
in. Yeah.
he's 320 pounds. Let's not be mean.
He isn't. So one way he contrasts with Carter's pure traits. I mean, while he is fairly nimble, Carter's flexibility is insane, and Mozzie doesn't quite have the pure ability to bend at the waist and change of direction. But Carter really is close enough to a unicorn. Not that Mozzie's
Absolutely.
lacking, but
Yeah, I mean, it's not a fair comparison, although, we're just trying to contextualize where Mazzy fits in. But yeah,
right.
Carter's just a different level. He kind of sets new edges to defenses. Like here, he is as the backside three. This was a
Mm-hmm.
great game for him because, like, TCU run a lot of kind of gun zone, and it
Yeah.
really gave him the chance to just pop a guard and almost like cheat gaps and stuff.
So you see more. You see more of the an actual mirror step this time.
Yeah, flat step. Uh, the guard is tight away, so flat step. And then perfect hand placement, drive up underneath the guard.
How is he 6'3", man? Like, look at that.
That's the thing. I don't get how he's 6'3". I just don't think he is.
He's good though.
And the other thing here is Duggan. That's the TCU quarterback. He is a kind of mobile dude. So if you're looking at kind of like here, maybe you'd be like, "I'll get up the, rush up the pocket." I think they was kind of slow playing the D tackles in the pass rush stuff to like maintain rush spacing because this is
Contain.
scrambling threat, push the pocket back. And so when it comes to the NFL, I kind of he could become, he has the traits and the tools to be. He's not like one of these nose tackles where where we're talking about pocket push at best. He has
Yeah.
stuff which you could work through. Like he's very untapped in the kind of pass rush area.
Well, that's the fun conversation about him because I mean, he could he can absolutely play nose tackle at the next level, but I mean, to me, he's more fun as a three technique, just
Yeah,
because I think that the potential
he's a
applies.
three tech to me. Absolutely,
Yeah,
he's a three tech who can play the 2 eye. Um, I mean, he could play 4 eye. Like I'm almost being heightist around him, even though he's 6'3", because he's so low. It's like tricking me. But like he's basically the if they're running the 2-4 fronts again, like he kind of solves that. Like look at this.
yeah. His
He's not meant
ability
to
to
make this
shed is
play.
really good.
I'm trying to work out how they fit this. Is 23 in the hold on. This is a 3. So 23 is in the A gap, and then they're canceling the gap with 58 and 25 is fitting off him.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's like TCU, right? That's
that's
Steve Avila.
TCU. But yeah, they have a good interior, and like this is traits for traits right there
Yep.
with and Mozzie wins. So
And he's not just cheating across the face. Notice, he skinnies down when they get out of empty and motion the back in. Then there's that flat step again, the really good hand placement.
mhm.
He plays very heavy, but notice how at this point he's in a position where if this cuts back, he could probably get back in play.
Yeah.
But he's then still able to shed great knockback, create separation, takes it.
He'd
Um,
this is random, but he'd be like a Hall of Fame center if he played offense. He'd be
there we go.
he'd be Jason Kelsey if he played offense.
Evan Brown's going to get competition where Mazzy Smith comes in and takes his job. Um,
Look at that. That's a center right there. He should be
it is,
playing
yeah.
either way.
And to this point, this kind of stance is very well, he's using a mirror step technique, but it's very kind of two gappy, right? It's like the 4-point frog stance, which is
Yeah.
synonymous with that. But they're
Oh,
great strike again. This is like same side zone. So not a very NFL-y concept, although Kansas City runs it. But here, I think this is a solid rep. So I've seen people say that he gets moved by combos. I only really saw it where he'd get in this kind of position and then he'd be like, "Oh, he's not getting moved really here. Like that's a really solid rep." But then what
yeah.
would happen is he'd dance into the gap away from where the combo's coming from, and then he'd get shoved. It was more that he was just getting greedy to make a play, but we'll see better examples of that.
And so once again, too, I agree with you. Like his actual ability to engage the blocks when he's doing it right is totally fine. It's like you said, trying to make a play. The contrast with Carter, Carter is a assignment robot. Like people like in well, when people kind of say things like effort or like consistency or can you be as good as you can be and stuff like that, like it's when you play the technique to the letter, I feel like that suggests quite a bit in the other direction of commitment and being able to be coachable and all that stuff. Like you don't see this from Carter very much. He doesn't abandon his assignment or try to do more than he should. Like he plays the technique to the letter and he's more consistent about what he can
Yeah.
like intentionally do.
Yeah, and to be clear, we're not saying that this rep is an example of that, but there's ones down the line. Yeah. And Carter's in a defense where if he his teammates are likely going to be right,
Right. That's true. That's true.
doesn't feel the need to have to press. I felt Mazzy, like, it's not a negative, like he's trying to make a play for his team. It's not necessarily a bad thing. This is a push pull, I think. Yeah, this is one thing. So when guards set him or centers set him with deep, he struggled to do much, which is again like, he has traits, but as a pass rusher, um, he's quite telegraphed. Like here, the center knows he's going for the push pull, swats the hands away, and he's basically stoned. Which, like here, he's one on one. It's an element where down the line you'd hope he'd be able to wreck this kind of thing. And it's a solid base from the center, but yeah. Okay. Just love the way he strikes people, and here 3 tech again. The situation allowing him to shine with the back to him, so runs going away, but that is standing. Steve Avia is probably going to go in the second round. They're standing someone up with a great base. Look how, unfortunately, this goalpost is in the way, but look how low the outside pad is. That tackle is trying to move him out and doesn't really. And this is an example of what I was saying about dancing. This to me, like he's won here. This to me is him dipping his head in this gap, trying to make a play, or I guess he knows that his end can clean this up. But like in the NFL, he doesn't necessarily have to do that. He could always just stick on it. So when we talk about like getting moved by the combo, I don't really think he does. I think it's more he's just trying to dance in, or he's trying to spill stuff. But like this is a really good rep.
Now, but that said, like Hurt isn't going to want him to do that.
What, dip his head in?
Where he tries to get, well, actually no, he would, because it's a heavy 3. Never mind. I just feel like he'd make more of a point of trying to deliberately hold the point.
Sure.
If he's on the backside.
Yeah, which I think I think he can do.
He absolutely can do it. And that's where like the conversation comes in, I think, because it's not a matter of like, can he? Because he does do it all the time. But yeah, I don't think that was a bad rep either.
Like there's an example of him kind of sticking in.
Right. And so it's another, that's the other thing with the benefit of a 5-man front, even in nickel, when like, because obviously the pass rush angles won't be there in nickel bear when you're playing 5 guys in the line of scrimmage, but the one-on-ones will be.
Yep.
And this is just, he'll feel less inclined of trying to make a play on the other gap where he can just focus, just dominating the guy in front of him.
Knock the crap out of that guard.
Yeah. And that's where I feel the projection gets so exciting. And yeah, when you have to play your over G front, he will be an upgrade on everyone they had last year in that, just because he's so special in that way.
And Seattle spoke about trying to be in a different mode. In terms of splitting double teams, not kind of staying and playing. And here, this is a pretty good job of finding that kind of space to go for it. He's clearly expecting, that 25 is going to fit the A gap off this, so he has the B, and he gets his ass through into the B. Again, it's nice to see, we've been seeing him playing on the right side. Here he's playing on the left, so different foot going in the ground and then strike. Interesting, actually, how I think he knows he's going to spill this, doesn't he? Just from his starting footwork, he's going to try and split the combo.
This is a particularly good rep because the guard knows how low he needs to get, and watch him get his hands underneath him and still like dig the block out.
Yep.
Because like this guard goes to block him, like knowing he has to get his pads underneath him. And while he does it by dipping his head, and Mazi's still able to stay in control.
Yep. Hands still get lower than that guard's dip.
Yeah, his
Like,
elbows are very tucked.
it's just probably interesting from a side-on perspective.
So, and also like even though Jaron Reed at his best is a really technical player, Jaron Reed his elbows would get a little too wide, and
Right, yeah,
his hands would end up sometimes misplacement and get more on the outside shoulder pad, which you can work because you can grab the pads like
yep.
savvy tackles know to make it work. But
We've seen the
snap
clinic,
after
Griff.
snap, what's that?
We've seen the clinic.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But snap after snap, like to contrast with that, Mozzie is like religious about keeping his elbows fairly tucked in, which helps him get his hands in the armpit and control the block. Even if he technically isn't even lower than the guy, he functionally is lower than him because of that.
And this is pretty crazy. And Michigan's playing a lot of kind of gapped out concepts, or at least guys are coming from tough angles, so they're playing heavy up front, a bit like Seattle was in the 2-4 last year. And Mazzy's able to play like kind of gap and a half, kind of two gap, whatever you want to call it, but he helps them cheat the math. And he just makes plays ultimately. He finds the football.
So like, yeah, like very little movement from the backside tackle there with like he like that the help doesn't do anything
No,
on the combo.
exactly. Which again, like when people were saying about the combo stuff,
Yeah.
I didn't get that. Now
It
this is one
always
game.
when he does get moved, it always is when, like you said, when it's later in the rep and he's just trying to cross face,
Yeah.
and then that second effort from the because he's exposed at that point, but it's not like the meat of the rep really.
This is just an example, I think, of he's getting off the ball upfield as a three tech. So, like when we saw him earlier, where he was lined up head up on the nose, or on the center as a nose, and the center just backpedaled, set him, knocks his hand away, and that was that. But when he's the three tech and he has a wide angle on the guard, this is pretty interesting of what he can build up the power. He already has a lot of power, obviously, but
Mhm.
he gets that kind of two arm step down the center of the guard, and you can just sort of see the raw power here. Like that's
Yeah,
it's like bull in a china shop kind of
I mean,
style.
yeah, that's elite. So
It's elite, guys. So we like
so
Mazzy Smith, is what
so
we're saying.
would you take him at 20?
I just feel uncomfortable doing that because of I don't know. I'm a bad drafter. I'm bad.
Like
I'm a
like
bad
like
GM because like it's just like you'd like to know that there was a bit more pass rush already there. But then they do have a massive need there,
yeah.
and he will go probably late 20s, 30.
Yeah. The thing is that like if they don't take Carter, there's no other interior guy in this class that has the potential to be transformative. There will be good players, but no one will be transformative. So, or has the potential to be really. So, I would take him for that alone at 20.
Yeah.
Sure, in a perfect world, I would like to get him in a trade back after you trade to like 26, take him there and then get an extra pick to mess around with. But yeah.
Yeah, it's weird that the I can't find his pressure rate on the SIS website, but yeah, I I'm not so I'm not averse to it. Like, and again, if he ticks the character stuff, it all does depend on five, obviously. Like, and ideally at 20, I'm open to trading down. But whether that's possible, I'm not so sure. Mazzy's the type of guy though with the traits he has, and like the lack of guys who have that kind of as you're saying, in the position of defensive tackle, he's like the last of the guys who have the true like wow. Uh, but in general, in this class, the lack of blue chip guys, and I don't think Mazzy's a blue chip guy yet, but he certainly has that kind of potential. Maybe he goes even higher than 20. Like you,
Yeah.
you don't know how that all works out.
I mean, Trevon Walker went first overall last year.
He did.
So,
He did. We were there for that. Right,
Saw it with
Griff.
my own eyes.
Who do you want to talk about next?
All right, so the other big name of this class that I think you everyone can feel good about is a good player. Perhaps isn't dominant, but I think he has Pro Bowl potential. Is Keanu Benton, the Wisconsin guy? He played like Mozzie. He played nose tackle for them. Um, but I think that he projects more as a three technique. He did play some three technique for Wisconsin, but I think in the NFL he projects toward three technique, or four eye. But for the Seahawks purposes, because of that versatility, really he could play all three spots on the interior. He could even play like four eye, maybe some super heavy five, but I don't think that would be necessary. But first and foremost, I think he's a run defender, but there is some real potential as a pass rusher, more like in the strength power arena. He's a bull rusher, but then he's got counters off of it and like a good counter club, pretty heavy club, almost like a hunt move that he can use. His run defense, and we'll talk about it, can get a little funky at times. He can get high. He can play high. That's why I think ultimately he projects as more of a three technique, more of an end in a 3-4 scheme. But I still just think he's like just really strong. Like when he has good games, like when he's playing well, because he does have games or series where he's not playing as well as he normally does. But when he is playing well, it's clobbering time. Like he's just clobbering people. I don't know how he's only listed at 305. He seems way bigger than that. But
He looks
Matty,
huge. He
yeah,
looks absolutely huge. Like I don't understand.
he plays huge too.
And he measured in 6'3" and 6'8" of an inch, so 6'4". But he looks, and this is kind of a negative, like I was saying about how Mazzy Smith is, a 5'10" guy who's actually 6'3". Benton's like 6'6". He looks like, and that's kind of because, like you were saying about his run defense being a bit patchy. Like there's technique stuff where his pad level is just too high, and he is an example of how college football scheme and the way that defenses work is often kind of detrimental to seeing like the technique that a lot of the NFL teams use in terms of their run defense. So like it's not necessarily like his fault a lot of the time, and it's just that if you're going to move people, Wisconsin moved their front quite a bit. If you're going to play certain techniques that just NFL teams don't use, then you're not going to get the same kind of reps that the NFL teams are going to want or ask for. And so then you have to kind of project things. And like in terms of the testing, like Benton is very, very suitable for Seattle.
He had a good 3-cone, which is surprising.
34-inch long arms, 9'3" broad jump, which is very, very good, impressive for a 309-pounder. 29.5-inch vert. The 10-yard split of 1.79 seconds isn't amazing, like especially if he's going to be playing like more of a three tech than a nose, which I agree kind of suits his game. But yeah, that 7.34 seconds 3-cone is like very surprising. But anyway, let's get to his tape. So this is a very kind of Jekyll and Hyde game against Ohio State. There's a lot of tape. They struggled to get off the field. Ohio State are a good team. Wisconsin had a bit of a down year as well, which you sort of have to factor into the equation. And yeah, we'll just roll it through. You'll be able to see who it is on the broadcast without me pointing it out because of how big he is. The annoying thing with Wisconsin as well is they had a number 56, and that looks really like number 95.
So he plays nasty. Is one thing I like about him.
Yeah, he hits people.
Yeah, he loves to
weird
play.
like why do they turn like this just to avoid, just keep off combos? I mean, it kind of works.
I think he's actually worried about keeping because it's outside zone blocking.
They just run to turn. And again, like Seattle doesn't coach turn and run like this. They want to stay square as often as possible.
Yeah,
Different style.
He's got a bubble to his side, and I think he's worried about his ability to stay square and move fast enough.
Yep.
But I mean, he makes it work for him.
Sure. It's a pretty huge first strike because this is RPO. Like he's set a new edge here if that just gets handed off.
Yeah, I mean, he dwarfs guards that he's covering up.
That's why I don't get how
is he only 3'10"?
Like Mazzy Smith is like a foot smaller than this guy. Like no.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Yeah.
The measurements, they're not correct. The stiffness.
Yeah.
But that's not going to be his game.
No, you want him in a phone booth. Like, he's a phone booth player.
Yeah, and so like within their scheme, they have to kind of ask their guys to do some certain things. But like, he's just massive. I don't.
Okay. By the way, if you roll it back, really quick, I just want to bring this up because it's an opportunity. So like Mozzie, like this isn't bad effort, but when toward the end of the play he starts to jog, Carter never stops running here. Like Carter would jog even if he's just jogging. He's jogging all the way to the pile.
Yeah.
And like what Benton is doing is normal. That's not abnormal. That's not low effort. That's just he knows he's not affecting the play. Why tire himself out?
Realistically, like there's a million plays where he doesn't do anything, but there might be one play where the ball gets fumbled out and then he ends up somehow landing on the ball. Like it's very.
Yeah. But it's just with Carter, he keeps running. And if we're going to talk about his effort, then we should acknowledge the fact that he keeps moving his feet even after the play's long.
I don't want to talk about his effort because it's just I don't understand that as a knock. I just don't.
Yeah, it's just frustrating. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. You've been on the apps. That people have been saying things. And like, I really don't want him moving because as soon as he moves, he gets high, guys get underneath him. It's just like bad positions. I was like shocked how bad this first half was.
It's just goal line scheming there, I think. But
yeah, oh no, yeah, I get why. Like here as well, this is getting sealed out unless he was purposely jetting, but I don't think so.
Well, so with him, when he does jet, because Wisconsin will push the nose, so a zero technique nose tackle, they will push him into the front side A gap for certain things to change the fit for the second level. When he does that, he makes a point of trying to cross face and get all the way in that gap.
Yeah.
So I think this is him just getting moved.
Yeah.
And so like, as you can tell, like this is a kind of a pad level thing. He's presenting too much hitting surface to the right guard.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also why he should be a 3 technique, ultimately.
Absolutely. And he's not like the best open field mover. Like he just looks he's just big and huge, and like it looks like he's hurt his hamstring constantly. But like it's a big guy. Like
yeah, he's the biggest 310-pound man I've ever seen.
Now, this I put as ineffective pass rush. Now, let's see if my hurried notes are correct. It was quick game, though, but I'm saying he should get hands off him here. Yes.
He's too high with his... Well, actually, he's not.
Misses his first hit. Doesn't get the hand off with the first club.
And he does... If he has an outside move, it is a club move. So this is his go-to, and it doesn't work here.
Okay, here I've put awful 3 technique rep. Here we have him as the 3 tech. I think this is a guard getting under high pads. That's what we'll get here.
Yeah. Yikes.
This is my thing with him. He just plays so tall. Like I don't know how.
Well,
Like,
look
you
at
can
his
only do
feet
so
too.
much.
His feet doesn't make any sense here.
Yeah.
I think that's just a shot rep. I think it's just a shitty rep all around from him.
Okay. He's here. But I'm gonna be honest and say, like, after the first half of this game, I was pretty much out because, yeah, I just didn't like the pad level. I didn't see where you'd play him along the line, other than just being a big guy who's a really good tester, which that's stuff to work with. But like,
Got to keep the faith though.
yep, and
Yeah.
maybe he's a really nice chap. Apologies
I
if you
mean,
are high character.
OSU is not a good game for him. It is his bad game.
Well, we'll get to the second half because that's where like I started seeing it. Um, I don't understand what the defense is here either.
Yeah, it's strange. What's the down and distance on this one?
Second and 10.
That's weird.
Oh, it's Tampa 2. But yeah.
Oh well.
Here. Oof. So this is kind of you'll see this in the way that he pass rushes, but he loves dipping his shoulder and twisting his body. We saw it when he was like trying to chase and run that play earlier. But as a pass rusher, his ability to do that is pretty exciting. So we've kind of seen the first half here. So let me get to that pass rush stuff. This is beating the slide of the pass protection. So here he is his nose tackle. And he's able to squeeze through the gap the quarterback. And that's a big man moving fast. Maybe there's a chance, Griff, that he did just slim down for the testing.
It's possible.
I don't understand. Like, he just looks huge. But stuff like this
And
is...
like like sometimes proportions can be misleading because like Mozzie Smith is jacked, right? So he's really dense.
I've put disgraceful next to this clip. So it's probably worth watching.
It was quite the sell. Yeah, that's bad. That's what Jaron Reed looked like in Green Bay last year.
Well, what happens? He's let that so to that point, look how slow he is getting that foot in the ground. It doesn't happen.
It's bad. There's no base.
So your dogs are getting upset about this.
Can you hear them? Uh-oh.
I think it's time they had their say. Yeah. So, like, I kind of yeah, I don't really know. This is a tough game. I saw the pass rush stuff. Like, his first step is very impressive. Like, he's going first on the text game here, but when he's getting after it up front, like, that's interesting. And from the side on angle, so that you can see. Now, the guy to look at would be, I think they're actually running a loop for this edge at the bottom of the screen. But look at his first step compared to this top of the screen outside linebacker. Like, he's not too far off that. Like, there's some speed built up. Oh, and I think here we finally have a good rep as a too high, I think. Mm. 1-on-1, but foot in the ground, strikes through the guys, able to win basically through two gaps, which is nice.
Yeah. He does have a knack for crossing face on lateral stuff.
Yeah, I like. I don't know. It just seems technique wise, just a lot to. Especially like maybe he made it work kind of in this style of defense, but like for what Seattle's going to want, and there's a lot of stuff to work on. And yeah, I'm not so sure. But like, where do you think he goes in the draft?
I think he goes in the second.
Yeah.
Just
So
because I think that he's the realist tackle after Mozzie. Everyone else is either short arms or a little light or completely theoretical. His Northwestern game, MSU game, that's Michigan State, and I think Nebraska. I mean, he just pummels people. So I think that it's high end play strength and effort. The pad level doesn't become a problem in those games because he's just so much stronger than his competition. Um, you know what I mean? So it's not like he's kind of getting away with it with the high pads. He does some stuff. There's more bull rush in those games, especially from three technique. Um, so I think that stuff will get him drafted. But going against OSU, he's going up against a top tier line, and you see the issues start to crop up. That's probably, I mean, he's a second round player. He's not a first round player, and in some drafts he would go in the third, for sure. Uh, but again, like I think three technique, they can figure it out. I think the play strength is real. It's hard to find. I mean, like strength itself, we always think like quickness and explosiveness, but slow twitch strength is something that can be undervalued at times. So in the right scheme with the right coaching, I think that's a trait that can be leveraged. And I think he can make them better, but it's really more like just a solid player in the rotation,
mm,
and less so a guy that again is going to be transformative like Carter likely would be and Mozzie could be. So that's how I see it.
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Right now, in terms of like those kind of like defensive tackle interior guys, three tech kind of could be a nose. Two names to mention are South Carolina's Zach Pickens, who is interesting in that he has real movement skills. He was at the Senior Bowl, which obviously Seattle likes. Uh, and he's a slightly lighter type of player in that he was 6'4", 291 pounds at the combine, but he ran a 4.89 seconds 40 with a 1.67 seconds 10-yard split, 30.5-inch vertical, 8 foot 8-inch broad. Like really impressive stuff. Only 22 bench press reps, but like his movement skills are so obvious, like on the tape. Like going from watching like a Benton to him, which like is obviously they're different types of players. Benton is taller and heavier, but like there's very few guys who had the kind of movement ability. His technique was incredibly rough to me. Like but he was, and his best stuff came when he was allowed to really go and attack people. He was often like stuck in the back door of plays and reach blocks in ways that you wouldn't want. And I watched him against Georgia and Kentucky, which are like tough games, but like he just looks so athletic that definitely worth like taking a flyer like mid to late draft.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch Pickens or no?
Yeah, I watched a little bit. Pretty much have the same impressions. Your drafting traits and effort kind of has a ways to go as a player, but he probably is a fourth, fifth round guy. So
Testing probably goes third.
yeah.
So, and then the other man to mention who I've heard rumors that Seattle is interested in is Mississippi State's Cameron Young. Not a very talked about prospect. Uh, kind of flown under the radar. He was at the Senior Bowl. He, I, I should check how old he is actually, but he tested very, very well. Yeah, he's a 5-year senior. So he's turning 23 in June. But 34.5-inch long arms, 6'3", 304 pounds, a 1.73 seconds 10-yard split, a 28.5-inch vertical, a 9-foot broad jump. Like, that's some explosion. And I watched him, and he strikes guys really well. Like, he has real knockback power. He stays square well. He beats down blocks. He's just offers nothing as a pass rusher, like absolutely nothing. And he does look very stiff in the hips, like to redirect and stuff. Like, even for a big guy, very stiff, not agile at all. But like, really interesting to me as just a solid run defender who you can plug and play. Like, I think it's not glitzy, but as a 5th round, 4th round pick, I'm interested. He had an ACL injury earlier in his career, which I think kind of limited the progress, the momentum he was able to put together. But like, good run defense isn't that exciting, but like, he could play a bit of nose for Seattle, a bit of 3 tech. Like, if they need defensive tackles, that's a 5th round pick. Like, I'd 100% do that. Especially if he's a good character guy, which we don't know. We don't know any of this. Okay. That's pretty much it in terms of the kind of interior defensive guys who are going to be like able to play their kind of nose or 3 tech roles, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay. So, in terms of like the kind of 3 tech / 4-eye, the more kind of 3-4 ends or the 4-3 kind of 3 techniques, we've taught Cansey, we've taught Brissy. Now, there are names like Jacob Slade, who is a like late round pass rush type, 32 and 3/8 long arms. I was surprised that Carl Brooks out of Bowling Green only had 31.5-inch long arms, and Jonah Tavai had 29.5-inch long arms. Coburn's more of a nose, isn't he?
He's definitely a nose.
Okay, should we talk noses or should we talk the 3-4 ends?
Let's quickly get through the noses.
Okay.
Like just brief characterizations of these guys.
Keondre Coburn out of Texas, 31.5-inch long arms. That is probably not a Seattle kind of player. But that being said, Robert Cooper from Florida State, he had 31.25-inch long arms, and he visited Seattle. He has interesting pad level to me. I imagine that, though, visit is a case of if you go undrafted, they're trying to recruit in that sense. I think that's an undrafted free agent. The other guy who visited Seattle is Calvin Avery out of Illinois. 32.5-inch long arms. So nearing a bit better in terms of having the required arm length. And that's an interesting defense that Illinois is part of. He's massive. He's 345 pounds. He's like a real classic kind of nose, right? And testing wise, he 8'5" broad jump, a 31 reps on the bench press, which they'll like, and a 30.5-inch vertical is crazy at his size. Like, that's it's not Al Woods crazy, but it's still very impressive. So, intriguing guy. Like, did you like Avery?
I think I liked him overall, but and you mentioned this to me off air. I mean, he does struggle against combos, but I wonder how much of that is like I don't know, like an experience thing. Like, is it something that can be fixed? Because I think he shows the play strength one on one that he can really manhandle blockers and stuff. So I feel like it's just kind of feeling out that backside blocker. I think he's a really really quick processor. Like he gets football. Um, like reading angle of departure of his initial blocker of his visual key to inform him what to do next is like immediate. So I'm sure that combined with the weight, they probably view him as like a Brian Monet, like, hey, we can just coach him up, in time. He can be a serviceable player. He certainly has the size profile. So I think that's the idea behind him. He's not like a dominating presence yet, but I think he can be a give them quality snaps down the line.
Yeah, you tweeted out some great clips of that kind of block recognition and his ability to cross face when he's on the backside of the play. He's in the shade. The center goes to down block him or back block him, and the guard on his side pulls around. He's able to cross face, kind of cancel the gap, cheat the math, whatever you want to call it. And he does that quickly. Like he kind of knows it's coming, and that speaks to good coaching going on at Illinois. But also, I think it's very aware from him. What I'd say about him is, like, as a pass rusher, he's completely unaware. He gets knocked over by
He's got
adding
nothing.
back
Yeah.
guards. He has nothing, which he's a 345-pound nose tackle. You're not really expecting much from that. Yeah, I just slightly disappointed with how he plays combo blocks. It's not necessarily a pad level. Well, it is kind of the pad. The pad level's high. He can work on that.
Well, he doesn't do anything deliberate that it's usually coached in how you approach a combo, like splitting it. Like he doesn't do anything deliberately different. He's just kind of giving hitting surface to the backside guy and just trying to absorb it. And he's not going to absorb it every time. So like dropping either like dropping the backside knee a little bit, or trying to get skinny a little bit. Like he doesn't do anything like that. He's just kind of like,
which on that subject, Griff, like they probably expected their guys to be one-on-one a lot of the time. So in terms of coaching emphasis, and they were. So in terms of coaching emphasis, how much do you actually focus attention on dealing with combos? Like,
yeah.
Anyway,
like I'm sure Hurt thinks, okay, I can work with this guy if you bring him in here. He's not meant to be a savior, right? He's meant to be Brian Monet, right? And like Brian Monet Monet was pretty bad his rookie year, and he wasn't that good in college. Then he became actually kind of good his second and third year, and then fourth year as a run defender at least. So as a zero technique nose tackle in their base bear nickel bear front. So I think that's the idea behind him.
Yeah. So the other big nose tackle is Gerald Clark out of Coastal Carolina. So he had 3/4 inch long arms. He was basically 6'4" and 334-pounder.
So he doesn't move down the line well at all, but he's just huge and strong as hell, and they just can't move him. So yeah, he'll hold the point, but he's not going to like get off a block and go run something down, which schemes need their nose tackle to be able to do at times, right? Like he's not very nimble. He's not going to shed a block and make a diving tackle, like the way that even Al Woods can.
Oh, even Brian Monet did it in 2020.
Right. But he's going to eat blocks though. So you want to play him for 20 to 30% of your snaps, and you can get him as an undrafted free agent, or say you draft him in the 6th round, because why not? Then okay,
yeah, he's at
fine.
the Senior Bowl. He'll probably get drafted by someone.
Yeah, but that's the idea behind him. I feel like Avery is like the better midpoint type of guy, because he's a little bit more agile than him. He can move a little bit more.
Testing wise, Clark had a 27.5-inch vert. Like he's not as jumpy as Avery was, and I don't think his tape was as good. So
So, and then to bring this back to Siaki on that specific point, Siaki moves down the line really well. Like he can shed a block and run. Even for, like his testing be damned. Like he can move. He makes plays in that way. So just to kind of contrast these noses from one another. And Coburn is similar, but I don't think the arm length is there, and I don't think he has elite play strength to overcome it or elite mass. Like
yeah,
Anchor.
and you were messaging me about his technique. Like that does not translate. You can't shoot gaps like that in the NFL, really.
Yeah, for a nose tackle, you can't. Like
Yeah.
he likes to run, he likes to move. It's just I don't think it translates.
How about Javon Dexter, Gervin Dexter from Florida? Because he had like one hell of a combine, and he kind of alerted people as I dropped my pen. He alerted people to the fact that this guy exists, and okay, he's played SEC football, and he is like a top, well, 9.69 RAS. So
Yeah, so yeah, that's getting into like the 290-pound three tech four eye guys, right? And
yeah,
there's like three of those guys of note. It's Gervin, it's Byron Young at Alabama, and then Ojimo from Texas, Coburn's teammate. And of those three, I think that Dexter offers the most as a pure pass rusher. I mean, he's long and he gets upfield. He's pretty quick. I just think he's the lightest versus the run than all those guys. Now maybe that can be fixed. Some of it's just a pad level like technique problem. If you can fix that, because again, he's really tall. Maybe there's something there, but I feel like they're in the market for early down rotational guys that just provide a floor. And that's where Byron Young comes in. I think Byron Young is the most well-balanced prospect of all three of those guys because he's 294. He's not 300. He's not 305. He's not 310. Sometimes the mass is a problem, like at the point of attack with, like doubles on the front side of a gap scheme run. Or sometimes a combo will just move him, but like his in one-on-ones, he has really good pad level, really good technique. He's really agile, even though he didn't have a good three cone. Like on tape, he's agile. He moves really well. He can expand and shrink his body. Like he's really flexible, and it shows up as a pass rusher. He didn't get a lot of opportunities to really like shoot gaps as a three technique, but
yeah.
what shows up a lot though is when he's looping or he's a 4-eye and he has to expand, he can actually bend and dip underneath tackles. And I feel like those reps, I mean, he's not going to dip underneath tackles in the NFL, but I feel like that translates to him rushing guards really well. Like he can be a speed rip guy.
I feel like we spoke about him doing that
So, yeah.
really early. Like I feel like we highlighted him very early on in the process, and then we sort of come back to him and been like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
this guy's interesting.
Yeah, when we're watching Will Anderson, it's like who's 47? He keeps doing things. And that's Byron. So yeah, Byron can give you
he plays like a lighter guy than he actually is, which is like a positive thing to him.
yeah,
Like
yeah, he moves
he's
well.
294 pounds. Like he doesn't look 294 pounds. He looks like, I don't know, 275. Like yeah.
Yeah. And so like yeah, if they want to draft him in the third round, he'll give you 400 snaps as a rookie. It's fine. He'll be fine,
Hmm.
I think he's more
So
of a floor player than a ceiling player, but
So the one thing is, Young is obviously slightly older. Like he turns 23 in November, whereas Dexter is 22. So you do have that going, and Young was at the Senior Bowl, of course. He just seems like Young seems like a really solid football player with pass rush upside, whereas Dexter's like that kind of, you're just betting on the athleticism and the pass rush flashes, but like in terms of the run stuff, that's completely, I don't know. Seattle's roster, the way they're at the moment, they can't really afford to take too many swings or luxuries when it comes to the D line.
yeah, they
Like
need sure things.
they really do. So and good football players, which is a theme that John Schneider mentioned. So how about finally Griff Moro Ajomo from Texas?
So the more I watched him, the more I realized that he's really more of a classic big end and less of a true interior guy.
Damn it, we
Um,
messed up.
Yeah, we should have put him in the tweener episode. Now he's not really going to bend the edge, but occasionally he has like a good looking bull rush that makes you think like, maybe he actually could. But really, he's a weird player, man. Like he's fine. I just don't think his body type is meant to be an down in down out 4-3 technique. Even one gapping. Like I like Keon White more as a 3 technique in a bear front than Ojimo, I think. He has kind of like high hips when he plays. He likes to backdoor things. He likes to get vertical, which cool, but like you gotta like stack and shed at times, really get into the block, which he'll do okay sometimes, but then other times he'll just get rocked. And it's like, well, it's because you're 285, really. And those guys it's hard for those guys to play inside. Like Draymond Jones is kind of an outlier. And he wasn't good at it at OSU either. He got better in the NFL. And that was the concern with him. Like he's 6'2" and change. I thought he was 6'4", 6'5" watching him in college because he had a pad level problem. But then he really dedicated his technique. And one-on-ones, he's fine as an interior player. But like we talked about, doubles will hurt him still because he's 285.
Yep.
So I don't know. What were your thoughts on Ojimo, though?
I probably haven't watched as much as you, but yeah, boringly similar. Just yeah, his hips look kind of stiff. Like I don't know. And again, it's a case of that defense is a bit odd, but he looked good shooting gaps and attacking, but then yeah, I don't know. Like he's kind of unknown as a pass rusher, right? Like
I don't think he'll be I mean, he might do something fun every once in a while, but
and the thing with him is like he is young. Like maybe he turns 22 later this year. He has 34.5-inch long arms. He's 292 pounds. He jumped 33 inches vertically. Like they're 9'4" in the broad. Those are really solid jumps. Like really good. Well, and a 1.68 10-yard split. Like there's clearly stuff there. It's just sort of learning. Like it's a day 3 guy. Like day 3 guy with upside.
Right.
Just nowhere near the kind of like if you're stacking these guys, like Young is ahead of them right now. But like potential wise, I don't know.
Yeah, I would just take Young.
There you go.
Nothing fancy needs to be done.
That is the interior defensive line done. We did it. We made it. We'll be back on Monday with a mock draft. Multiple mock drafts. I was thinking, Griff, we should do it where we get on the mock draft simulators, no free ads. And then once we've taken a player, we can't take the player again.
Okay.
And then we leave it up to the people to fire one of us.
Okay.
Yep, nailed it. Okay, thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back Monday, then obviously Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the NFL draft. We'll go live for that. Everyone can have some fun. I'll get the picks spoiled because I'm watching via the internet. And yeah, leave a 5-star review, like the video, comment. It all helps. Follow Griff at CMikeSpinMove. Follow me at Matty F. Brown. Follow the podcast at Seattle Overload. We'll be back on Monday, actually, with a mock draft Monday, where it will be crazy. We'll get Seattle's picks exactly right. It's just going to be uncanny stuff. And it will get quite boring, though, if we can't take someone that we've already taken, because then after you've done... No, time to take Devon Witherspoon at 5 overall, I guess. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you. Good night.